Oh, okay, flaming dragon, fuckface. First, take a big step back and literally fuck your own face!
And that, right there, is my favorite comedy scene in any movie ever. Right, I've turned into the kind of guy who says, they don't make them like they used to, and I'd like to apologize for that, because I hate that guy about as much as everybody else does. But here's the thing, I've got a genuine question, and I'd like it thought about properly before anybody answers, which is, when was the last time a new comedy actually made you laugh? Not even smiled at, not sent on to somebody with 3 of those crying faces on the end of it. Actually laughed, out loud, on your own, in a room with nobody else in it. I've been sat here for a while trying to come up with one, and I've got nothing. What can I say? Most of what we get these days is a legacy sequel that nobody asked for, or some bland 4-quadrant thing about a talking animal, or 90 minutes of likable people improvising at each other until somebody in the edit decides that'll probably do. And all of it tested to death. Every edge sanded off by a room full of people whose only job is making sure nobody, anywhere, is ever startled. And you know what? When it comes to most of this stuff, it feels like it's checking your face while it plays. It's desperate to be liked. It's a bit like a dog that's learned the shape of the word walk. Anyway, a couple of weeks back, I ended up putting on Tropic Thunder. And this wasn't some big rewatch or anything. I put it on for background noise, basically, while I got on with something else. And then it just sort of kept going. And at some point, I'm sat on the end of the couch with my drink going warm in my hand, watching a scene that has got to be one of the most rewatched things in my entire life, laughing like an idiot at a bald guy on a speakerphone. That, right there, my friends, is the funniest 6 minutes ever committed to film. Not the funniest scene in that movie, not the funniest scene of the 2000s, not just the funniest thing Tom Cruise has ever done, which, let's be honest here, was always going to be a low bar, and he cleared it by roughly the height of a building. I mean, the funniest 6 minutes in the history of the medium.
Look, fuckstick, I'm incredibly busy, so why don't you get the hell out of here before I snap your dick off and jam it into your ass?
6 minutes. Go and time it. And the strange part, the bit that still gets me, is that it's a cameo. It was supposed to be a bit of light relief, one of the smaller ideas in a movie already stuffed with them, and it walks off with the whole thing anyway. Now I'm about to explain why it's funny, which is famously the best way there is to make something stop being funny, so bear with me here, because there is nothing more tragic on this earth than a middle-aged man doing structural analysis of a joke about a face. But here's the thing, this isn't a happy accident that fell out of the edit. It's a piece of comic engineering, and it isn't the joke that makes a scene funny. I mean, the joke is more or less the last thing that happens, and most of the time it's going to be the least important part of it. What actually does the work is the gap between what you were expecting and what you get. And when it comes to modern comedy, they write the punchline first, and then work backwards to build some contrived little scene to hang it on, which is why you can see the whole thing coming from about a mile away.
Ooh, child, things will get brighter. Now bring it down hard. Someday, put it together.
Merci, Gaston.
I haven't finished.
Oh, pardon, Gaston. 1,000 pardons, monsieur. Now, this...
This does the exact opposite. Quick setup for anybody who hasn't seen it. And if that's you, then honestly, go and fix that first. There's a bunch of actors shooting a Vietnam War movie out in the jungle, and a lot of it goes wrong, and they end up lost. And for the first time in his life, the biggest star among them gets taken by an actual armed drug gang who have no idea who he is and just assume somebody somewhere will pay to get him back. And meanwhile, back in Los Angeles, we cut to the studio. And in the studio, there's a guy called Les Grossman, who is a bald, hairy, enormous slab of a man in glasses, with a bit of a gut on him and a pair of hands like oven gloves, sat behind a desk about the size of a car. Nothing in the movie tells you who's playing him, and the credits don't tell you either. He's not supposed to be a nice man, and he isn't one. He doesn't care about the movie, he doesn't care about the actor, and he doesn't care whether the hostage makes it home. He's run the numbers and worked out that a dead movie star was always going to be worth a hell of a lot more to him at the box office than a live one, and he proceeds accordingly. Now on paper, that's a nothing part. I mean, it's basically 4 scenes and a phone. And what happens instead turns out to be one of the best bits of casting we've had in the last 20 years. Because it's Tom Cruise. And it's not Tom Cruise doing a funny voice with his own face on, which is the way that a movie star normally does comedy, where the joke is, look at me being silly, aren't I a good sport about it all? But he's gone. I mean physically gone. You can sit and watch that scene knowing full well that it's him and still lose him in it. Everybody else in that movie is doing a performance, and Cruise is doing a transplant. And the fact of the matter is that the bit that makes it work isn't the fat suit at all. It's that this is one of the most controlled men in Hollywood. A guy who has spent 40 years being photographed running in a straight line and being careful as hell with his own image. And here he is playing the exact kind of creature that manages men like Tom Cruise. He's playing his own boss, and he's enjoying most of it, which comes off the screen in waves. And it's all in the small stuff, the little sniff, the dead eyes, the way he says numbers. And then, at the end of it, he starts dancing. The prosthetics are doing maybe 10% of that. Right, so the scene itself. What happens is that the gang ring up the studio to make their demand, and Grossman takes the call on speakerphone with the actor's agent stood there in the room next to him. And what follows is one of the great masterclasses in escalation. It starts off as a business call, but then it becomes a threat and an insult and a monologue, and by the end of it, we're somewhere out past language altogether, in a place that I don't know anybody had ever been before. But here's the trick of it, and at the end of the day, it's the only bit that matters. The boardroom voice never once drops. He doesn't get angry, not properly, not for a second. The volume goes up, but the register doesn't move an inch. I mean, he's delivering one of the most unhinged sequences of words in modern cinema in the exact tone of a guy reading out a quarterly forecast, and then goes straight back to the numbers like nothing happened. And that gap between how insane all of this is and how businesslike the delivery of it is turns out to be where all of the laughs in the scene actually come from. And then there's the line. And you know what? Everybody knows the line. He tells them, and I'll paraphrase a bit here for the algorithm's sake, to take a big step back and then to go and perform a fairly ambitious anatomical act upon their own face.
Okay, flaming dragon, fuckface. First, take a big step back and literally fuck your own face!
It's an unusual instruction, and the reason it lands isn't the profanity. Nobody's laughing at a swear word. Everybody's heard swear words, and a lot of them. My grandma says worse than that at a parking meter. It lands because of where it sat in the whole thing, because of the 11 seconds of flat corporate negotiations stacked up in front of it, and because he just lets it sit there afterwards, and because everything about that man up to that point turned out to be building towards somebody who does not raise his voice. Now, I know how all this sounds. At this point, some idiot on the internet has watched a comedy scene 400 times and built himself a cathedral on top of it. And let's be honest here, I don't know that I'd argue with any of that. But yes, I know what everybody says about that movie now, and I'm not going to relitigate all of that here. Partly because it isn't what this is about, and partly because it'd end up in the comments either way. What I would say is that whatever anybody thinks of the rest of the movie, those 6 minutes stand on their own, and nothing since has come anywhere near it. And here's the part that bothers me, which is why I wanted to talk about any of this in the first place. The fact of the matter is that scene only exists because of a set of conditions that at this point are basically gone. A big studio comedy with a 9-figure budget, released wide, that spends its running time being genuinely vicious about the industry that's paying for it. One of the biggest movie stars on the planet agreeing to be made unrecognizable and completely unlikable, with no redemption arc, no soft landing, and no scene near the end where it turns out he's got a heart after all. Try that now. I mean, try getting it past 11 people in a room in Burbank who all have to agree that nothing in it can ever be clipped out of context. It just doesn't get made. And not because anybody banned it, but because the machine that turns this stuff out now is more or less incapable of making something that isn't desperate to be liked. And this wasn't some brave little indie that nobody went to see. At the end of the day, it was one of the biggest comedies of its year, and it made its money back several times over while it was busy insulting the people who paid for it. And a comedy that's desperate to be liked isn't a comedy. It's a hostage video with a soundtrack. People always point to the full retard scene, or to Downey, and both of those are great, and on another day, I'd happily give you a whole video about either one. But for me, it's this one, and I could defend it all day. It has got to be the only case I can think of where a movie star took his entire persona and used it as the punchline, buried himself inside a part that had no business being that good, and then had the discipline to play it dead straight the whole way through. I've watched it more times than I'd honestly say out loud, but it has never once got less funny, and I don't know that I'm ever going to see anything like it again, mostly because I don't think anybody's going to be allowed to make it anymore. So no, they really don't make them like that anymore. Turns out the guy was right about that one, and what a depressing bloody way to find that out. Anyway, rant over.